Hey there, and welcome to the Magic Snail Channel. This is where we share real life stories about people dealing with all kinds of situations. Some are funny, some are messy, and some are downright unbelievable. If you like hearing stories that feel real and keep you curious, you'll feel right at home here. So go ahead, like the video, and subscribe to the channel if you want more. We've got plenty of stories waiting for you.
You thought I'd stay blind? Your bags are packed. Go finish what you started in his garage.
The used rubber wasn't even hidden well, just sitting there in my back seat like a wet receipt nobody wanted to claim, crumpled between the cup holder and Blake's old baseball glove. I stared at it for a solid 10 seconds, my brain doing that thing where it tries to reject obvious truths like a bad kidney. Well, I said to the empty garage, that's not mine. My name's Dave Brennan, 39 years old, insurance adjuster for Coastal Mutual, and apparently the kind of husband who finds prophylactics in his Ford Explorer that he definitely didn't put there. I've spent 15 years documenting other people's disasters. Flooded basements, fender benders, house fires caused by idiots who think extension cords are decorative. You develop an eye for evidence. And this little latex souvenir? It was fresh evidence of something I really didn't want to investigate. I grabbed a paper towel and picked it up like it might bite me. The thing was still damp, still warm for crying out loud. My stomach did a slow barrel roll. Melody had used the Explorer yesterday, said she needed to pick up supplies for the salon. My car's making that noise again, honey. Mind if I take yours? All sweet and distracted, barely looking up from her phone. I'd been married to Melody for 18 years. Met her when she was cutting hair at Supercuts and dreaming of her own place. Now she owns Serenity Salon on Main Street, had 6 girls working for her, and made more money than I did. Good for her. Really, I was proud of her success, even if it meant she came home later and later, always smelling like expensive shampoo and other people's secrets. But this was a different kind of secret. I walked into the house, the condom safely disposed of in the outside trash can because I'm not completely stupid. Melody was in the kitchen, stirring something that smelled like garlic and wine. She looked up and smiled, and for a second, I almost convinced myself I'd imagined the whole thing. "How was work?" she asked, the same question she'd asked every day for 18 years. "Fine," I said, the same answer I'd given every day for 18 years. Then I added, "Found something weird in the Explorer." Her stirring didn't even pause. "Oh? What kind of weird?" "Used condom in the back seat." The stirring stopped. Just for a beat, maybe half a second. But I caught it. Insurance adjusting trains you to notice the tiny hesitations, the micro reactions that separate truth from fiction. "Gross," she said, resuming her stirring with maybe a little too much enthusiasm. "Probably Blake. You know how kids are." Blake was our 17-year-old son. Good kid, honor roll, worked weekends at the hardware store. The kind of teenager who still asked permission before using my tools. "Blake?" I said. "Well, who else would it be? It's not like you and I have been, in the car lately." She had a point. Our romantic life had become about as exciting as my insurance paperwork. But still, when would Blake have had time? He's either at school, work, or home. Melody shrugged. "Kids find a way. Remember when we were that age?" I remembered. But I also remembered Blake coming straight home from work yesterday, still in his hardware store uniform, complaining about how Mr. Peterson made him organize the entire bolt section. Hard to fit in a backseat rendezvous when you're categorizing screws by thread pitch. After dinner, I cornered Blake in his room. He was hunched over his desk, working on calc homework with the intense focus of someone trying to avoid summer school. "Blake," I said, settling onto his bed, "need to ask you something, and I need you to be straight with me." He looked up, pencil still poised over his notebook. "What's up, Dad? You been using my car for anything I should know about?" His forehead wrinkled. "Your car? No, why would I use your car when I've got the Civic?" "Just wondering." Found something in the back seat that made me curious. "What kind of something?" I studied his face. 18 years of bedtime stories and scraped knees and parent-teacher conferences had taught me Blake's tells. When he lied about finishing his homework, his left eye twitched. When he snuck cookies before dinner, he couldn't meet my eyes. When he'd crashed his bike into Mrs. Patterson's fence and blamed it on the wind, he'd rubbed his nose like it itched. Right now, he just looked confused. Never mind, I said. Probably nothing, but it wasn't nothing. And that night, lying in bed next to Melody as she scrolled through her phone with the blue glow painting her face like a corpse, I started doing what I do best, investigating. See, insurance adjusters are professional skeptics. We take people's stories and poke holes in them until either the truth emerges or the lies collapse. It's not personal, it's just math. Numbers don't lie. Timelines don't lie. Physical evidence doesn't lie. People, though? People lie all the time. I keep detailed records of everything. Mileage logs for tax purposes, gas receipts, maintenance schedules. It's boring as heck, but it saved me thousands over the years. So when I pulled out my little notebook and started checking Melody's story against the numbers, things got interesting fast. Yesterday, she'd said she went to pick up supplies for the salon. The beauty supply warehouse was 12 miles away. Round trip, maybe 25 miles with traffic and a stop for coffee. But the Explorer had 38 additional miles on it when she brought it back. Where had she been for those extra 13 miles? I pulled up Google Maps and started playing with routes. The beauty supply warehouse was north of town. 13 extra miles could take you a lot of places. Like maybe to that sketchy area off Old Mill Road, where all the automotive shops clustered together like metal mushrooms after rain. The next morning, Melody left for work early. Opening early for Mrs. Patterson, she said, pecking my cheek with lips that tasted like coffee and secrets. She's got a wedding to attend. After she left, I did something I'd never done in 18 years of marriage. I went through her stuff. Not in a creepy, controlling way. At least, that's what I told myself. Just a quick professional assessment of the available evidence. Her car was making that noise she'd mentioned. A squealing sound from the brakes that meant the pads were shot. Easy fix. Maybe $200 at any decent shop. But Melody had always been weird about car repairs. Said mechanics tried to rip off women, overcharged for simple jobs. Fair enough. I'd seen it happen. But then I found the receipt. It was tucked in her console, folded small like she'd tried to hide it. Todd's Automotive, brake service. $50. Dated 3 days ago. $50 for brake pads? Either Todd was running a charity, or this wasn't just about brakes. I knew Todd's Automotive, dingy little shop in a converted gas station, the kind of place that specialized in quick fixes and questionable inspections. I'd driven past it 100 times, but never paid attention. Now I was very interested. During my lunch break, I took a drive. Todd's was exactly what I expected. Oil-stained concrete, hand-painted signs advertising fast service and all work guaranteed, and a collection of vehicles in various stages of mechanical autopsy. But the guy behind the counter, Todd presumably, wasn't what I expected at all. He was maybe 40, built like someone who threw around tires for a living, with the kind of arms that came from actual work instead of a gym membership. Decent looking, I guess, in that rough around the edges way some women seem to find irresistible. He had a tattoo sleeve on his left arm and the kind of smile that probably worked on soccer moms and hairdressers. "Help you with something?" he asked, wiping his hands on a rag that had seen better decades. "Just looking around," I said. "My wife mentioned you guys. Said you did good work. What's her name? I might remember her." "Melody. Melody Brennan. Drives a blue Honda." His smile got a little wider. "Oh, yeah, Melody. Great lady. Real friendly. She mention anything specific about the work?" Something in his tone made my teeth itch. Real friendly. Sure she was. "Just the brakes," I said. "Said you guys were real thorough," Todd laughed. "We aim to please. Customer satisfaction is our #1 priority." I wanted to hit him. Right there in his greasy little kingdom, surrounded by wrenches and the smell of motor oil and broken dreams. But insurance adjusters don't hit people. We document. We gather evidence. We build cases. So I smiled back and said, "I'll keep that in mind." That evening, I did what any reasonable husband would do when faced with mounting evidence of his wife's infidelity. I bought a GPS tracker on Amazon. $39 for a device the size of a matchbook that could tell me exactly where my Explorer went and for how long. Technology was amazing. Marriage, not so much. The tracker arrived 2 days later. I installed it under the rear bumper during my lunch break, right next to the spare tire mount where it wouldn't be found unless someone was really looking. The magnetic case stuck like it was welded there. Then I waited. Melody used the Explorer twice that week, Both times, according to the GPS app on my phone, she made the same mysterious detour. Beauty supply warehouse first, just like she said. But then, a 15-minute stop at a location that turned out to be a small motel parking lot. Then another 20-minute stop at Todd's Automotive. The sequence was always the same. Supplies, motel, garage. Like a cheating wife's version of a circuit training workout. I started taking pictures. Not of Melody, that felt too much like stalking, but of her car parked in places it shouldn't be. Evidence, documentation, the kind of proof that would hold up in court if things went that far. And things were definitely heading that far. The confrontation happened on a Thursday. Melody was lying on the couch, feet tucked under her, scrolling through her phone with that little smile that used to mean she was looking at pictures of Blake or cute animals. Now it made my stomach clench. Her phone buzzed. A text message. The smile got wider. "Who's that?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Just Sarah from the salon, asking about tomorrow's schedule." Another buzz, another smile. "Busy night for Sarah," I said. "She's got questions about the new inventory system." Buzz, smile. This time, she actually giggled. "Must be a pretty funny inventory system." Melody looked up, and for just a second, I saw something flash across her face. Guilt, maybe. Or irritation at being caught. "It's just work stuff, Dave. You wouldn't understand." That's when I did something that probably crossed a line. While she was in the bathroom, I grabbed her phone and airdropped the screen to our smart TV. The conversation filled the 70-inch display in high-definition glory. Todd, "Can't stop thinking about this afternoon. You're incredible." Melody, "You're not so bad yourself. Same time tomorrow?" Todd, "Can't wait. Bring that thing you did with your—" That's when Melody walked back in and saw her private conversation broadcast like the evening news. "Dave!" She lunged for the TV remote, but I was already holding it. "Inventory system?" I said. "Is that what we're calling it now?" Her face went through about 6 different expressions in 2 seconds. Shock, anger, embarrassment, defiance. She settled on indignation. "You went through my phone. How dare you? How dare I? How dare I?" I stood up, and 18 years of marriage dissolved like sugar in rain. "You're screwing some grease monkey in his garage, and you're mad at me for finding out? It's not what it looks like. It looks like you're cheating on me with Todd from the auto shop. What am I missing?" Melody sat down heavily, like someone had cut her puppet strings. For a moment, I thought she might actually tell the truth. Instead, she went with the classics. "It's not about closeness. It's about feeling appreciated. When's the last time you looked at me like I was beautiful? When's the last time you made me feel wanted? When's the last time you gave me the chance? You're never here anymore. And when you are, you're glued to that phone, texting your boyfriend. He's not my boyfriend. It's complicated." "Complicated?" I laughed, but there wasn't any humor in it. "You know what's not complicated? 18 years of marriage. A kid who looks up to both of us, a life we built together. A life that was dying anyway," she shot back. "When's the last time we did anything together? When's the last time we talked about something that mattered? You come home, eat dinner, watch TV, and go to bed every day. For years." She wasn't wrong, but she wasn't right either. So the solution was to start sleeping with the first guy who showed you attention? Todd makes me feel alive again. He listens to me. He thinks I'm funny and smart and beautiful. I think you're all those things. No, you don't. You think I'm convenient. There's a difference. We stared at each other across the living room that had been our shared space for almost 2 decades. The TV was still showing her text conversation, frozen on Todd's last message about bringing that thing tomorrow. "So what now?" I asked. "I don't know," she said, and for the first time in months, she sounded honest. "I really don't know." But I knew, because I'd spent my entire adult life evaluating risk and planning for disaster. And this was a disaster that needed managing. The next day, I started building my case. First, I did what I do best, research. Todd Garrison, 38 years old, owner-operator of Todd's Automotive. Divorced twice, current child support payments to 2 different women, liens against his business for unpaid taxes. The kind of guy who probably thought my wife's salon money looked pretty attractive. But here's where it got interesting. Todd's business license had expired 6 months ago. He was operating illegally. His insurance was lapsed. His inspection certification was suspended for irregularities that basically meant he was passing cars that shouldn't be on the road. I called in a few favors. When you've been processing claims for 15 years, you get to know people. The guy who handles commercial inspections owed me for smoothing over a claim where his nephew had totaled a client's BMW. Time to collect. Dave, buddy, Jimmy Patterson said when I called him. What can I do you for? Need you to take a look at a shop that might not be up to code. Todd's Automotive on Old Mill Road. What kind of look? The kind that might shut him down if he's operating without proper permits. Jimmy chuckled. I like your style. Give me a week. While I waited for bureaucracy to work its magic, I started planning Phase 2. Melody's salon was having its annual customer appreciation event next month. Big party, wine and cheese, discounts on services. All her regular clients would be there, including, I was betting, several women who might be interested to know about Todd's customer service philosophy. I volunteered to help with the setup. Really? Melody looked surprised when I offered. We'd been doing the polite roommate thing for 2 weeks, sleeping in the same bed but staying on our respective sides like the mattress was mine. Sure, I said. I've got that projector from work. Thought you might want to do a slideshow. Show off the salon, maybe some before and after photos. That would be great, she said, and I could see her mentally calculating whether this meant I was ready to forgive and forget. I wasn't, but I was ready to document and distribute. The customer appreciation event was scheduled for a Saturday afternoon. I spent the previous week preparing my presentation. Not before and after photos of hairstyles, though. Before and after photos of my marriage. I had pictures of Melody's car at the motel, pictures of her car at Todd's shop, screenshots of text messages, copies of receipts from her purse, GPS tracking data showing times and locations. A complete timeline of every lie she'd told me over the past 2 months. I also had something else. A recording of Todd bragging to one of his buddies about this rich salon owner who can't get enough. Apparently, Todd was a talker. And apparently he didn't know that the guy installing new speakers in his garage was wearing a wire. Okay, not a wire. Just a phone with a voice recording app, but it sounded more professional to think of it as surveillance. Saturday came. The salon was packed with Melody's clients, all dressed up and ready to celebrate. I set up the projector while she mingled, playing the part of supportive husband one last time. Ladies, Melody called out when it was time for the presentation. My husband Dave has put together a little slideshow about our journey here at Serenity Salon. Dave? I took the microphone and looked out at 35 women who trusted Melody with their hair, their gossip, and their Friday night plans. Thank you, I said. This has been quite a journey. The first slide was our wedding photo. Melody at 21, me at 22, both of us grinning like we'd won the lottery. A few women sighed appreciatively. The second slide was the salon's grand opening. Melody cutting the ribbon while I held Blake, who was maybe 6 months old and screaming. The third slide was last month. Melody's Honda parked outside the Starlight Motel at 2:17 p.m. on a Tuesday when she was supposed to be at a hair show in Portland. The room went very quiet. Now, I said, some of you might be wondering about our commitment to customer satisfaction. Melody's always believed in going above and beyond for her clients, sometimes literally above. Sometimes beyond what most people would consider appropriate in a professional relationship. The fourth slide was a text message. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Bring the red thing. The fifth slide was Todd's response. You know what you do to me in that red thing? Melody was standing by the refreshment table, her face cycling through expressions like a slot machine landing on jackpot, bankruptcy, and cardiac arrest. Dave, she said, her voice barely a whisper. What are you doing? Providing full disclosure, I said. I think your clients deserve to know exactly what kind of services you're offering these days. The sixth slide was the receipt from Todd's Automotive, $50 for brake service on a Honda that hadn't needed brake work. The seventh slide was a photo of Todd himself, shirtless and grinning, which I'd found in Melody's phone. Sarah Martinez, one of Melody's oldest clients, stood up. Melody, what the heck is this? It's not what it looks like, Melody said, which was becoming her catchphrase. It looks like you're screwing around on your husband, said Janet Wilson, who'd been coming to the salon since it opened. With some garage mechanic. Ladies, I said, I want you to know this doesn't reflect on the quality of hair services you've received, just on the quality of marriage counseling you might have witnessed. And that's when Melody snapped. Shut it off, she screamed, lunging for the projector. Turn it off right now! But I wasn't done. The 8th slide was the real kicker, a photo of Todd's rap sheet. 2 arrests for fraud, 1 conviction for writing bad checks, and a restraining order filed by his second ex-wife. Your boyfriend's quite the catch, I announced to the room. Really knows how to treat a lady. Just ask his ex-wives. The room exploded, women talking over each other, asking questions, demanding answers. Melody ran for the bathroom, leaving me alone with her clients and my slideshow of evidence. Dave, Sarah said, approaching me with the careful steps of someone navigating a minefield, how long has this been going on? 2 months that I can prove, I said. Maybe longer. And you're sure? I clicked to the 9th slide. A recording app interface with a play button labeled Todd's Greatest Hits. I pressed play. Todd's voice filled the salon, tinny through the projector speakers, but clear enough. Man, this chick is crazy for me. Owns that fancy salon on Main Street. Married to some boring insurance guy. She comes by twice a week, sometimes 3 times. Can't get enough. His friend's voice. Nice. She paying you for the car work? Todd. Are you kidding? I'm charging her $50 to tighten a lug nut. She doesn't know anything about cars, but she knows plenty about other things, if you catch my drift. Laughter. Todd. Best part is she thinks it's some big romantic secret, like we're star-crossed lovers or something. I'm just trying to keep her happy until I figure out how much her husband's worth. The recording ended. The salon was silent, except for the hum of hair dryers and the sound of 35 women reassessing their opinion of Melody Brennan. That son of a witch, Janet Wilson said finally. Which son of a witch? I asked. There's more than one in this story. Melody emerged from the bathroom, her makeup streaked and her face red. She looked at the room full of her clients, all staring at her with expressions ranging from pity to disgust. This is my business, she said, her voice shaking. These are my clients. You had no right. I had every right, I said. You're my wife. Or were my wife? Hard to tell anymore. Get out, she said. Get out of my salon. Actually, I said, packing up the projector with the deliberate care of someone who'd practiced this moment, I think you'll find the lease on this place is in both our names. Jointly held property. I'll be discussing that with my lawyer Monday morning. And then I left. Just walked out of the salon while Melody's entire social and professional world collapsed behind me. It should have felt good, triumphant. Like justice served cold with a side of public humiliation. Instead, it just felt empty. But I wasn't done yet. The next week, Jimmy Patterson came through. Todd's Automotive was shut down for operating without proper permits. The state impounded 3 cars that were on the lot, including one that belonged to the mayor's wife. Todd was facing fines, possible jail time, and the kind of legal bills that would keep him busy for years. 2 days after that, Todd's landlord evicted him. Turns out the lease specifically prohibited illegal business operations. Todd had 30 days to clear out, but the real beauty was what happened to Melody's business. Word travels fast in a small town, especially when it involves closeness, betrayal, and public humiliation. By the end of the week, half her clients had canceled their appointments. By the end of the month, she was down to 12 regular customers, most of whom came more for the gossip than the haircuts. I moved into a rental apartment across town. Nothing fancy, just a 1-bedroom place with decent Wi-Fi and parking for 1 car. Blake stayed with me on weekends, and we developed a new routine. Pizza on Fridays, hardware store on Saturdays, homework on Sundays. Dad, he said one Saturday while we were browsing paintbrushes, are you okay? I'm fine, I said, which wasn't entirely true, but wasn't entirely false either. Mom's been crying a lot. I imagine she has. She says you embarrassed her in front of all her friends. I stopped walking and looked at my son, who was 17 and trying to navigate the wreckage of his parents' marriage with the kind of careful diplomacy usually reserved for international incidents. Blake, I said, your mother made choices. I just made sure people knew what those choices were. But did you have to be so public about it? It was a fair question, and the honest answer was no, I didn't have to be so public about it. I could have confronted her privately, could have demanded counseling, could have tried to work things out like adults. But I didn't want to work things out. I wanted everyone to know that Dave Brennan wasn't the kind of man who got walked on. That insurance adjusters might be boring, but we weren't stupid. That actions had consequences, even for pretty salon owners who thought they could have their cake and eat it too. Sometimes, I told Blake, you have to make a choice between being nice and being right. I chose being right. What if being right isn't the same thing as being good? Kid was too smart for his own good. Got that from his mother, probably. Then I guess we'll find out, I said. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. I got the house, half the salon's value, and primary custody of Blake. Melody got her car, her remaining clients, and a hard lesson in the mathematics of infidelity. Todd had moved to another town by then, probably looking for the next bored wife with money to burn and a marriage to destroy. Good riddance. The final confrontation came on a Tuesday evening in March. I was at the grocery store debating the merits of store-brand pasta sauce when I heard familiar laughter from the next aisle over. Melody was there with Sarah Martinez and 2 other women I recognized from the salon. They were huddled by the wine display, talking in the hushed tones of conspirators or mourners. Never got over the humiliation, Melody was saying. He destroyed my reputation just to make himself feel better. Well, Sarah said, you did cheat on him. It wasn't about the cheating. It was about power. He couldn't stand that I was successful, that I had my own life. Mel, said one of the other women, you were sleeping with a mechanic in his garage. That's not having your own life. That's having someone else's husband. I almost walked away then, almost pretended I hadn't heard anything and continued with my grocery shopping like a civilized person. But 18 years of marriage and 6 months of aftermath had worn away most of my civilized impulses. I rounded the corner with my cart. Ladies, I said. They all turned. Melody's face went pale, then red, then some color that didn't have a name. Dave, she said. Melody. I nodded to the others. Sarah, Jennifer, Lisa. They mumbled hellos and suddenly became very interested in wine labels. Funny running into you here, I said to Melody. I was just thinking about reputation. Were you? Yeah. Specifically, I was thinking about how reputation is like credit. Takes years to build, minutes to destroy, and sometimes the person who destroys it isn't the person who built it. Melody straightened her shoulders. Is that supposed to be profound? Just an observation. From someone who spent his career documenting other people's disasters and creating a few of his own. I smiled. I didn't create anything, I just provided full disclosure. Same thing I do at work every day. You humiliated me. I documented your choices. There's a difference. We stood there in the grocery store wine aisle, surrounded by bottles of dreams and regrets, having the conversation we should have had 6 months earlier. But 6 months earlier, she was still lying about Todd and inventory systems and brake repairs that cost $50. I loved you, she said finally. I loved you too, I said, but you loved someone else more. It wasn't love. It was just excitement. Something different. Something different. I tested the words like they were evidence in a case I was trying to solve. You threw away 18 years of marriage for something different. Those 18 years were dying anyway. We both know it. Maybe she was right. Maybe we'd been sleepwalking through our marriage for years, going through the motions without the emotions. Maybe Todd had been just the symptom, not the disease. But maybe doesn't matter in insurance work. Maybe doesn't matter in divorce court. Maybe doesn't pay alimony or explain to your kid why mommy and daddy don't live together anymore. Well, I said, now you've got all the different you can handle. I started to push my cart away, then stopped. Melody! She looked up, hope flickering across her face like she thought I might apologize. Like I might take back the slideshow and the public humiliation and the systematic destruction of her social life. Next time you want something different, I said, try asking for it before you go looking for it in someone else's garage. I left her there with her friends and their wine, went home to my apartment and made dinner for one. Blake was at his mother's that night, probably listening to her cry about how mean his father had become. And maybe I had become mean. Maybe turning someone's private betrayal into public entertainment crossed a line that decent people don't cross. Maybe there were better ways to handle infidelity than humiliation and scorched earth revenge. But sitting in my quiet apartment, eating store-brand pasta with store-brand sauce, I couldn't bring myself to regret it. Melody had made her choice when she decided our marriage was worth less than whatever excitement she found in Todd's greasy hands. I'd made mine when I decided that choice deserved consequences. Some people might call that wrong. I called it justice. The kind of justice you get when boring insurance adjusters stop being boring and start being thorough.